Mike is the brand new Hulu series that explores Mike Tyson. The first 2 episodes are now on the platform. I have seen the first 5. Is it worth a watch? Let's dive into it. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Like I said, today we are talking Mike. Hulu sent me the first 5 episodes of this series. Do not worry, I will not spoil anything. We're going to dive into the first 2 and then hit on what is to come and why I feel like you should continue to give this show a chance as it goes, but we're definitely going to talk about the highs and lows. That right. So Mike explores the dynamic and controversial story behind Mike Tyson. The 8-episode limited series talks about the tumultuous ups and downs of his boxing career and personal life, from being a beloved global athlete to a pariah and back again. Focusing the lens on Mike Tyson, the series examines class in America, race in America, fame and the power of media, misogyny, the wealth divide, and the promise of the American dream, and ultimately our own role in shaping Mike's story. Series stars Trevante Rhodes in the lead role, and it is rated TV mature for essentially everything. You have sex and nudity, a little bit of violence in there, not as much boxing, some profanity, drugs and smoking, intense scenes, all of those things. But I do want to talk about the creators and people behind this series, the first being Steven Rogers, the next being Craig Gillespie, both of which were involved with a movie like I, Tonya. Craig Gillespie, just earlier this year, Pam and Tommy, something like The Finest Hours. You have a few episodes directed by Tiffany Johnson, who did Girls Room and Black Monday. So a lot of talent involved behind the scenes, and it has those standard Craig Gillespie-isms. And what do I mean when I say that? Well, we're breaking the fourth wall off the bat. Mike is standing in front of an audience talking when he's a bit older. I believe it was in the late 2000s where this was set, but he's going through the big events in his life. And as he speaks about them to the audience and to us as an audience, we get to see those play out as this story progresses, right? Episode 1, we're kind of focused on his childhood. We're never able to dive deep into what he had to experience, but what we are seeing is the ups and downs of what he had to go through specifically, and then the peer pressure to do things that maybe he should not have done. A bit of a rowdy child, right? But once his mother is told something about him, and again, I'm not wanting to dive too deep into these episodes, that, as he says in the series, changed his life as a whole, and he didn't really know what to do about himself. Now, again, episode 1, it kind of flies by. So we're never really able to get into the details. Also, these episodes are only around 25 to 30 minutes long. I felt as if this is a series that maybe should have expanded that to the hour mark, just because it does kind of feel like a highlight reel as we go throughout the episodes. But I found episode 1 to be fine. I was really enjoying the performance from Trevante Rhodes. He's fantastic. His childhood, the pieces that we are able to get a bit more from, that was interesting. It was intriguing. We get the music playing, right? We get all of those things to get us amped up and make us feel like we're watching a rock star coming-of-age story, because that's really who Mike Tyson is as a whole, even though there are some things about him that we dive into a bit later in this series. Episode 2 is when we really start to hit on the boxing. Now, through 5 episodes, the focus is not on his boxing career, right? It's all about the personal life of Mike Tyson. And while we're seeing that come to light in the 2nd episode, and we get that reveal of his first manager and how that helps set him on the right path for him, even though that path starts to become a bit slippery in episode 3, that was intriguing. And I prefer episode 2 to episode 1 because it does start to slow down just a bit more, and Trevante Rhodes is able to give us kind of what we were looking for from Mike Tyson, right? It still tries to make him feel like a rock star, but that starts to come down to earth a bit more in the 3rd episode, because this one is all about his first love, showcasing the young love that he has with the character of Robin, right? They get married very quick, and being at the young age of, I believe it was early 20s that he is in this episode, well, he's making some choices and decisions that maybe aren't the best, and you really feel that from the character of Robin, who, again, is someone, I thought the performance was fine, but it's someone that you don't really get to see a lot of, because at the beginning of the episode, he is discovering who Robin is and falling in love with her, but by the end of the episode, we see what happens with that relationship, and it feels like it should have been years that passed, but the episode only being 25 minutes, it's just not enough for me. And episode 3 is the one episode of the show thus far, and I know you guys haven't seen it yet, where I'm sitting back going, is this all it's going to be? Is it going to just go through these stories individually as quick as possible? Because if that's the case, it's just a disservice to Trevante Rhodes and his performance, and a disservice to all these integral moments in his life. As we move into number 4, we get the introduction of Russell Hornsby as Don King, and we know the imposing figure that Don King is in real life, and his love of finding that success and the ups and downs of that relationship with Mike Tyson. Trevante Rhodes finally in this episode gets the opportunity to go a bit more in depth, and I believe Don King brought a spark to the show that I really appreciated. Right, a pacing again was a problem in 4 and even in 5, right? But we are slowing down to the point to where we're really starting to dive into the character of Mike, and the show being named Mike, right? Even though I like the style of this series as a whole, I think the filmmaking is good. I like the music. I like everything about it, other than the fact that it does kind of feel surface level when it shouldn't, because of how complex his life actually is. And being a television show, this should be your opportunity to be able to dive into this character much more so than you are with Mike. But once you all get, if you last that long, to episode 4, then I have a feeling you're going to start getting more out of it. And then 5, I think taking that a step further, we start to get into those allegations against Mike, except we're not really seeing this episode through Mike's perspective. We're seeing it through her perspective, and Mike is almost made as a background character in this series instead of what we got in the first 4 episodes. And, you know, part of me is wanting to see more of this performance because he's incredible in the show. I like the different perspective in episode 5, and episode 5 is really when the show, for me, started firing on all cylinders, and I said, if we get more of that in the next, 3 episodes, then I have a feeling this could end on a high note. Again, this is as far as I got through episode 5, but if you're struggling through the first 2 episodes and you think it's moving a bit too quick, it does inevitably slow down, and I think the introduction of someone like a Don King and then what happens in episode 5, those are the 2 best episodes so far, and that will give you something to look forward to in Mike. Look, it's a well-made show. I think Craig Gillespie is a great director. I think all of the various directors involved, the showrunner, right, the cast as a whole, a lack of chemistry with characters every now and then, and again, I just needed more time with some of these situations, right? It's such a surface-level feeling story when that should not be the case. But those nitpicks aside, I was at least entertained, and it's an easy watch. Part of me thinks they should have dropped every episode at once to make it a binge. But as you go, you'll be able to knock out an episode really quick and say, wow, okay, well, let's see what happens next week. Before I give you my score, let me know your thoughts down below on Mike. If you're watching this series and if you enjoyed this vid and you want to support it, be sure to drop a like down below. Mike has a lot going for it. The lead performance is incredible, and the series features more than a few standout moments. The issue here is the pacing and how it skims over integral moments in his life. Thankfully, it does settle in later on. As of now, after 5 episodes, I'm going a 68% with my score, but I feel like that could go up to a 70 if the last 3 episodes keep that same type of quality we were getting from episodes 4 or 5. But I would say check this show out. Now, I have seen a couple of things online about how Mike Tyson himself disapproves of this show, and this was a very brief glimpse of seeing this on Twitter. So my idea of watching this show and reviewing it is just giving the series itself a chance, not fully judging Mike based off of how he's portrayed in this show. I believe Trevante Rhodes is a great actor, so I wanted to see how he would do in this show. And there have been other cases of series that I found to be really enjoyable, even though some people did not fully like what they did. But I can understand how someone doesn't want to watch the show because of that. But for me, I try to watch and review as many things as I can. So that's how I feel about this series as a whole, just in case you all had questions. But again, I didn't dive too deep into that because I had already watched it and already worked on my notes for this review. All right, guys, that's enough for me. I'll see you soon.